Hey, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm so sorry. We seem to be unorganized here. We
Word.
are, but it's okay. I'm Verdaillia Turner with the Atlanta Federation of Teachers, and welcome. We have 30 minutes, so we're going to get right into this. Next to me is a retired 41-year veteran teacher. She's on our executive board,
I'm Frankie Long and I taught at Sutton.
and right next to me on my left side is
Ron Fowler. I'm the executive director of the Georgia Fed. Nice to meet you.
and we'll have another teacher who's going to come in, Ramonia Toombs, in a minute. We want you to know this is being recorded because we're going to want the world to hear and see what you say, and
Okay.
especially our members, but don't get nervous about it because we know we can handle it.
No worries.
Tell us your name and what you're running for.
How you doing? My name is Keedar Whittle. I am running for Atlanta Public School Board seat 8 at large.
At large. And I'm Verdaillia Turner. I think I said that.
You did.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Born and raised Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow, we have a whole lot of Atlanta folk running.
Yeah, we do.
I didn't know Atlanta had any more citizens left except me and 2 or 3 other folk, but they were
Right.
born and raised.
I know. Look, I'm gonna tell you, I moved back. I went away for 20-something years. I've been back for about 5 years now.
Where were you living before? What were you doing those other years?
So I went to Virginia, I went to Boston, New York, and LA.
Wow. And what is your profession?
So so Virginia was undergrad. Boston, I was a science coordinator for 3 middle schools. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I did a play, and I got bit by the acting bug. And so that's when I moved to New York. I did Broadway for 2 years in New York, and then I moved to LA to do
I
TV
wanna
and film. Yeah.
So then, oh, I got so many questions for you that'll be a little different from some others. So let's talk about performing in visual art and the contributions and the value of that to the other disciplines, because we don't see a whole lot of that now in schools. So tell us what you would like to see happen and
When
what.
I say I am a fan of exploration, and I think that's what visual arts gives us. It gives us an opportunity to explore. It gives us an opportunity to use our instincts and to develop trust. And especially in acting, but just in all arts. I mean, you have to be open. That's one of the biggest things that they teach you. Be open, be receptive. And all of that can give us different outlets. I read this book called The Artist Way by Dr. Julia Cameron, and it's the 10-year anniversary edition. And basically, it was a guide to your inner artist because we all have one.
First Lady Obama,
Michelle.
Mhm.
Has done a lot of talks, and she has been an advocate for the performing arts in public schools. A lot of folks don't know that, but for good reason. I had cousins to perform on Broadway. I was talking about it the other night. I love Broadway. Hooray for Broadway. But okay, now you are a science coordinator in Boston schools, correct?
There were 3 independent schools, but the schools were in Boston.
Okay. Have you noticed any differences, or can you compare, contrast the way education is done in the state of Massachusetts in any area? It could be employee relations, how decisions are made, how boards function, and et cetera, that you can share with us, because we celebrate the state of Massachusetts as being one of our higher performing states.
Yeah, so one of the things that really worked well in Boston were the relationships between the colleges and the schools. So there was early exposure to higher ed from the colleges, and it was as if Boston initiated it. There were also other stronger partnerships within the community that Boston Public Schools and other schools were able to take advantage of because of just the richness that was in Boston. Now, when I worked at LAUSD in LA, one of the things that I saw that till this day, because my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, she's a principal in LA. They have such a strong teacher representation and union. I'm talking about, like, when I say you can't do anything to them teachers, because those teachers, but they all believe in it. And I love the different standards. I mean, California period is different. But when X amount of teachers said, no, we're not going back because of COVID, LAUSD said, well, we need to figure something else out, because our teachers don't want to go back. So let's figure out how we can get our teachers back, or let's figure out how can we safely open up schools so our kids can continue to learn. And those are some of the things that I saw that were different in Boston and LA versus Georgia.
You see me moving all in my seat like a little bad child. Probably a bad child, right? But woo, well, so there are reasons why, and I'm so glad that you know this firsthand, because here, you want to say something, Frank? Because here, people give lip service to it, and they get a teacher awards out, and they say we love and appreciate teachers, and then they hand people. And if you can get enough traction here, then you might get the superintendent or board member to say something back to you. You know, we understand why we're in predicament. Number one, we don't necessarily measure our schools properly, and we know what the kind of system that is and how politically it's set up and that. But one of the major things that we see, one of the major problems that we see, is that we're not doing world-class education, because the people who know how to do education either run out of classrooms, don't want to be in the classrooms, and because of the conditions, and the folks who are in charge don't value that. I don't care how much they say it with their mouth, but they don't, because if they did, they wouldn't have to wait for folks to go on strike and everything else to give employees voice. They would just do what they know already works. But anyway,
They wouldn't have people say to classroom teachers, if you were any good, you would be out of the classroom in 5 years, because only lazy people stay, or people that are looking for a paycheck stay in a classroom more than 5 years.
So we're just glad
I
to talk
taught
to you on that
41
level.
years, so I know what people get told and how they look down on you if you decide to stay in a classroom. There's no way to go forward. You're not respected. You're thought of as some kind of trashy
Teachers
person.
are negotiating here.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems. We don't have what contracts. We got pieces of paper that we sign. So what are your plans to include, or what's your vision to include more parents so that they'll be more interactive, not only with the school district, but in the education and lives of their kids? Because kids are coming from some home other than the internet.
Right. So there's already organizations that are out there that are trying to put the word out there, but I think parents don't know how strong their voices are. And so we have to do a better job of educating our parents that they have a voice and how to properly use their voice. And we have to make sure that airways are consistently open when we do have these conversations. I really do believe if parents knew how, or there was an opportunity to learn and or voice their opinion, I think more parents would. And it should be at a school level as well. I mean, they shouldn't have to call downtown. They should be able to call to the school, and they should be able to voice their opinion at the school, and that should be translated to what is needed for that school.
And actually get some action. Tell us 2 negative things about this board, and then 2 positive things about this board, the one that sits now in Atlanta Public Schools.
Well, I think the board has done 2 great things. I think one, in terms of this board, I was thinking last board. This board has initiated an equity team in which they are diving into measures, they are diving into what is needed so that they can make proper decisions. I think that is a step in the right direction. I think another step in the right direction that this board initiated was the SEL initiative. and how SEL is now at the forefront of every school, is now at the forefront of every classroom. I think that is important because of just the times that we have come through, not only social injustice, but as well as the pandemic. I think SEL will.
Tell all of us on the fourth grade level what SEL is.
Social emotional learning.
Okay.
So now SEL is, it has to be incorporated into every classroom. And I'm gonna tell you why it's really important, because we all need a little therapy in our life. We all need to we all need to have an opportunity to talk about it. We all need to have an opportunity to learn how we can get through it. We all need it, because it's not a lot of people that go to therapy or have the access to therapy. And this is a step in that right direction.
And there's a stigma on it that should not be.
Exactly.
Because we,
Um,
go ahead.
I think two challenges that the board has faced is the first conversation of our goals and guardrails, and the second conversation. The standards are not high enough for our scholars. I think if we actually put forth higher standards, then we will then force the superintendent to figure out a way to meet those higher standards, but our students can get there. But as long as we keep them on a lower standard, just because we want to make sure we hit our mark, that doesn't push the board forward, that doesn't push the superintendent forward, that doesn't push leadership forward at the school level. I think the second challenge that the board has faced is the reopening of schools. I don't know if enough measures were put in place to ensure that our scholars are still learning during any hard or soft transition.
So what lessons can we learn from COVID? We should have, in our opinion, we should have learned some before COVID, and COVID exposed to some things. So what lessons have we learned from COVID, and what should we do about the problem that COVID brought out?
I think we're behind the 8 ball in technology. Atlanta is the Silicon Valley of the South. There is too many tech companies in our backyard for us to have not been on the cutting edge of technology and already moving towards this transition of being able to have some form of dual learning. If anybody misses a day, or we miss snow days, or we have whatever the days are, we can still learn. So I think we missed the ball on that, and I think there should be an emphasis on being a part of that cutting edge of technology. And this is kind of like, I'm from Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I love my city. And for my city to be in the top category of several other industries, and education is not one of them. Like, everybody should be looking at Atlanta just like you look at us for other industries. You should be looking at us to be like, yo, how can we get our education system like that? How can we serve scholars like that? So I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Well, I'm just going to weigh in right here, Frankie, for a minute. One of the reasons we don't have that, because we have too many people being elected by big corporate money to our board and to our city positions. And then we have titular, I can't ever pronounce that word, folk who look just like me, that move in and out of our institutions, our churches, our communities, and etc. And they are voice pieces. And if you look at where even some of those organizations that people are getting their paycheck, then that cuts a little deeper as to why we are not looking for those better solutions, because of a cap put on it and folk got tape across the mouth. But we agree with you. We think, especially as educators and a bright city so good to state to do business in, except when it comes to contracts for African Americans and minorities. That's the problem. But You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much. Have you looked at the budget of the city school system at all?
I have. I mean, I haven't studied the budget in detail, but I definitely have looked at the budget.
And you have an idea about how much money the school district receives?
About 1.4.
That's right. And compared to the city of Atlanta, of course, it's about double. So we have three governments here that many times work in tandem. Do you have any thing that you want to tell the public, tell us about how those governments should work together and what some of the problems are, or if they do work together and what some of the positives are? We've got Fulton County, City of Atlanta over there, and then we got school board. And plus, the school board here is run by what? A superintendent, and not by, like in some cities, the mayor.
Right. I think one of the, if I understand the question correctly, I think one of the things that we can do or learn or do better between all three governments is work together. If people are moving here, and I think more people are staying here. So if they're staying here, then we need to make sure they're equipped either for college or career. So if that's the case, then we need to develop partnerships even at a middle school, high school level, so that we can start preparing our scholars, now citizens, how to be functional citizens and develop skills that can get them the job.
Okay. Now, this we have one last question, and then I want you to tell us anything that you want to tell us, like what distinguishes you from other candidates, that kind of thing. Let's talk about discipline in schools. Now, we're not asking the same questions you need to know to all of the candidates based on what you were saying. Sometimes we're feeding all of what you're saying. Teachers often complain, and I taught many years, that we can't teach what we can't discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that schools can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we have folks speeding up and down the highway and seem like it's just totally out of control. And we have folks shooting folk, especially black on black crime. We have long had a bunch of rotten apples falling all the good apples and wearing us down just every day. And I think teachers sometimes about principals and paraprofessionals, all of us. What care should be, and who should be talking about it, and to we that's got some children totally out of control and disrespecting authority? What can we do?
Well,
Thank you for pausing like that, because it's a big one.
yeah, no, that's a big one, because it's like, oh, you just can't get rid of it. Like, no, that's a big one. I do think that could be part of our increased wrapped around services. I believe we were all born with an innate understanding of right and wrong. And if a child can understand the difference between right or wrong,
I believe that too.
then we can reach that child on a consistent basis. Now, I'm not saying if they don't understand the difference between right and wrong, we can't reach them every now and then, but that is a student with exceptionalities. But if we're talking about our core scholars, if they know the difference between right or wrong, yet they are just having a discipline problem, then that is something else that could be going on that we could assess and add in our increased wrapped around services. And maybe there are enough scholars in one school that we reformat or have additional support for those scholars in their classes. But eventually, it is my confidence that if we give them what they need to be supported, then we will be able to see a difference and a change in them.
The Georgia Federation of Teachers brought legislation to the General Assembly a few years ago and Senator Ford carried it, community schools, where we see different wraparound services. That's that model. And passed overwhelmingly in the Senate, but we couldn't get anything done over in the House. And popular Democrats were over that time too. Yeah, very popular Democrats. And now Senator Emanuel Jones is carrying that. That's something that we plan to talk to the governor about. And I want to write that down. Even before we even get into the gubernatorial election, we need those community schools. We need advocates for it, talking about what those community schools are and how they can serve us.
I would love to read what you guys have already. I would love to read that.
Okay, we'll make sure that we get that to you too.
Okay.
We want to make sure that you know that Atlanta Labor Council might be screening school board members.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they reached out to you. You have something to write with?
I do.
That number is 404-525-3551. I'm sorry, 3559. 404-525-3559. Sandra Williams is the contact. And you might want to leave a message for Rita Scott, R-I-T-A, Rita Scott also.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are publishing this.
Okay.
We're going to talk more. You and I are going to talk more. There's so many great folks running. And one of the ways that I was supported, you see this in my hand?
Mm-hmm.
This is not child abuse. That's not child abuse, okay? Mm-hmm. Children are children and not adults. But anyway, okay. Anything you want to leave us with? It is all.
The ruler is part of my logo.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much. And thank you for giving us your time today. And we'll be in touch.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Thank you all. You guys have a great one.
It's good to talk to a teacher, especially one that's taught in other places. Hey, that's been to the promised land where we're trying to go. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, look, let me tell you, we can make APS strong now.
Look, somebody's going to win your race. If it's not you, I'm saying right here for the world to know, we're going to burn Atlanta down and build it back.
Hey, I love it.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.